Hello, and welcome now to lecture 82. And in this lecture, let's go ahead and do some nice high quality still renders. Nice to present our scene. So yeah, let's show you how to do that. So I think the first thing is we don't need to be in the shading settings anymore. Let's go back to modeling and click on this. And let's come up here now and click on this drop down. And let's turn off relationship lines, bones, motion paths, and origins. We don't need those anymore. Okay, so now that we've done that, I think the next thing I need to do is simply bring in a camera. So I'll click on collections so that it comes in at the bottom here. And let's set the origin. So let's press Shift S. And let's go cursor to world origin. There we go, just to put that there like that. So the camera will come in on that point now. Now that we've done that, let's press Shift A and scroll all the way down to camera and click on that. And there it is, there's the camera in the scene. Let's bring it up on the Z axis like this. And let's press 7 on the numpad to see this from above. And we could go into wireframe mode for a moment. And we could go ahead and rotate, press 7 again. And we could go ahead and rotate that camera around. I want to start with the kitchen. So I'm just going to center the camera lens at the kitchen like this. And there we go, that's done. So now that we've done that, there's actually one more thing I need to do before I carry on. We can actually press setting, we can go back to solid mode now. If you remember the reference image group here, I'll turn it on for a moment actually. So we have this cube that we did early on in the scene to act as a reference for the size of our ground floor walls. And if we left that there like that right now, as we rendered it, that would be seen. So we'd have this great big white solid cube just in the middle of everything. So when we rendered out our first image, it would just be white. Left wondering why this is. So this reference image file, first of all, let's go ahead and hide everything. But let's go ahead and hit this little camera thing as well, so that it's not shown in the final renders. I mean, we could, if we wanted to, delete that file. We don't really have a purpose for it. But I'll go ahead and leave it in. Okay, so the next thing to do is we want to be able to view through that camera and see what it looks like. So I'm just going to press 0 on the number pad, and with that I can actually see through the camera now. I'll click on the little camera icon here, and I'll bring the focal length down to around 40. And the camera settings work pretty much just like a real camera. So if we wanted to, we could change the aperture. So if we click on this little depth of field, we could click on an object and we could use the little dropper here to snap on something, and that will become the center of the focus for the camera. Just like autofocus on a decent camera. We can change our f-stops, we can change the size of our aperture if you like, and our lens, so that we can have less or more depth of field. So lower numbers like f2.8 will have a low depth of field, high numbers will have a high depth of field. But we're going to keep the camera simple, so I'll turn off this setting. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is be able to move this camera to be able to compose this shot. So if I move this camera right now, if I move around right now, the camera will stay just where it is. And that's not what I want. So I'll press 0 again to go back to the camera view. And now I'll hit N, and we get this tab open here again. If I go to view, if I click on lock to 3D cursor and lock camera to view, now I can go ahead and move the camera and hold the view through the camera. So now I can compose my scene. So I'm going to put it, I would say, my first camera, something like this. Is looking good to me. I might just tilt the camera back a little bit. And that's looking pretty good. So I've got the kitchen, I've got some of the ceiling, but I've also got this chair here as well, and I've got some of the table. So I think that's quite a nice scene. I've also got some of this tree out here, and I've got some sky. I personally never go straight to a high quality render because they do take some time, so I'll do a test render first to see how this is looking. So let's come up to the camera settings here, and I'll just bring this up so we've got more of this. And Blender, for some reason, keeps the samples extremely high, and I've never known why they've been this high. I've never used this many samples in a render. So I'll actually set this, because this is first of all a test render, I will set this very low. So I'll set this at 100 and click enter. And I'll come down to performance here, and I'll come down to final render, and I'll turn on persistent data. And what that allows Blender to do is have a memory of these renders, and any information that's already done once it can reuse within the next render of the same frame, if that makes sense. Does it make sense? So if I've done one render and I go ahead and do another render, but without moving my camera, the second render can use any persistent data from the first one. Hopefully that makes some sense now. So now that I've done that, I'll actually just click on this icon here now. And let's go ahead and bring the resolution down. At the moment it's set at 1920 by 1080, which is 2K. Let's bring this down. So I'll click on this first one, and we'll bring this down to just a HD image. So HD is 1280 by 720. And click enter, and there we go. So now we have a low resolution image with low samples. So with all that done, but now we can go ahead and do a render. But before I do that, I'm going to do a save, because it's common for Blender to have a bit of a moment, maybe even a crash when you hit F12. So I'll press Ctrl S and go ahead and save my scene. Now that I've done that, I could go up here to render and I could click on this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to press F12 on my keyboard, which is a fast way to do a render. So I'll go ahead and expand this scene. And this is probably going to take a couple of minutes, so I'll pause the video. We don't need to just stay here for 2 minutes just watching paint dry. So I'll go ahead and pause the image, pause our video for a minute. Okay, so I'm back and Blender's finished rendering this scene, and I'm actually pleased with the way it's compiled. I'm missing the fridge out the corner, so I might just adjust this a little bit to get some of the fridge in the scene here. So I'll do that. But take a moment when you do your first render. Is there anything else in the scene at this time that you'd like to change? This is kind of your last chance to change anything. And what I am seeing is this sharp shadow line here from these three lamps. So I think I need to address that. The coffee pot looks a little bit small as well, so I think I'll do something with that. And then these coffee cups here, well, they're pretty innocuous like that, so I think I need to do something with those just so you can see that they are actually coffee cups. And you can see, because it's a low res image, it's quite pixelated when you zoom in. So I won't save this one. I'll actually go ahead and just close this one without saving. And I'll go ahead and do a little bit of my scene. So I'm going to rotate the camera a little bit more like this. Maybe just bring this over like this, just to capture a little bit more of what's going on. Bring that down maybe like this. And that's slightly better now. I can see a little bit of the fridge. And I mean, I want a little bit of skyline, and I'm willing to sacrifice some of the fridge to get that skyline. So I think I'll put my camera just like that. I think I'm pleased with that now. So now that I've done that, I'll unlock the camera to view and lock to 3D cursor. And it's very easy to forget that, and then you go and move and then lose your camera position. But I've done that now. Now that I've done that, I'll go ahead and roll out of this. and I'll just make these changes I talked about. So I think the first thing I'll do is I'll press Shift B, and I'll go ahead and recenter on this kettle. I'll grab the empty for it and go ahead and scale this kettle up a little bit like this. And that was easy enough. So now I'll go ahead and do the same now for this coffee pot. I'll grab the coffee pot here. I'll grab the empty for the coffee pot and go ahead, S, and go ahead and scale up. And maybe I'll go ahead and take that over a little bit like this. Okay, so now I'll do the same now for the coffee cups, but I don't have an empty for those, so I just made to make sure I select everything. So I'll grab the cup and the handle and the coffee. Do the same for these ones, and I'll go ahead and hit S and scale these up. And there we go, that's probably a little bit better. Make sure they're still down on the surface, and the coffee cup or the coffee pot isn't. So I'll grab the empty for that and go ahead and bring that back down, make sure that's sitting on the surface like that. Okay, so I think now we need to actually go ahead and, what we can do next is maybe take these lights here further up inside the lampshades. I'll hit Control and just deselect that, and I'll take the actual lights further up inside the lampshades like this. I'll hit Control S before I go ahead and go to full rendered mode, so I'll hit Control S and I'll do a save, and now I'll go ahead and we'll click into rendered mode like this, and it'll take a minute to render this. Now go into rendered mode, and now that we're into rendered mode, let's go ahead and grab the lights and let's bring the power down on these lights here a little bit. And now go ahead and maybe let's try turning off cast shadows, and that's brought a more ambient light to this area. I think I'm happier with that now. Okay, so now that's done, we can go ahead now and go back to shaded mode, and we can press 0 and see through our camera again, and we can lock to camera and see if there's any sort of final. I'll lock out for a moment and I'll just come closer to the camera view and then lock this again, and is there anything else I want to do to this view? Am I happy? So I'll rotate a little bit more like this, and I'm thinking now that really I shouldn't have worried too much about that fridge. I'll leave it like that. I've got most of the chair in the scene, I've got some skylight in this tree, so I think it's more important that I've got those in the scene than this fridge. I suppose I could click on the camera here, and I could maybe look at the focal length, maybe bring that out a bit, maybe that's better. And just bring that over again a bit more, and that's better. Now I've got the fridge in the scene, I've got some ground, I've got the ceiling. I'm happy with that now. Okay, so I don't think I need to do another test render. I think now it's time to do the final render. So what I'm going to do is click on this one first, and in render samples I'll increase this to 500. That's about as much as I think personally you will ever really need in samples. And I'll click on this icon for output, and let's go ahead and increase the resolution now. So we could go to either a 4K or a 2K image maybe. So that's completely up to you. So a 2K is 2048 by 1080, or we could go for a 4K at 4096 by 2160. I think I'm going to go for a 4K image. So in this one here, I'm going to go for 4096, and in the bottom one I will go for 2160. Obviously this is going to take a lot longer to render, but this means that because it's a high-res image, if for any reason you need to print up a physical copy of this, you want something on paper, or for the client to be able to sort of scroll into the image and look at fine details. Nothing should ever come too pixelated with a high-res image. So that's why I've kind of done that like that. So now that we have a high-res image and we have sample set at 500, we can go ahead and hit F12 and render. This is going to take a while. This is probably going to take, I estimate, for my PC, around 7 or 8 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and pause, maybe even make a cup of tea, and I'll see you in a minute. Hello, and I'm back again. So yeah, it took a little longer to render than I thought. It took 12, nearly 13 minutes. But you can see the difference in the high-res 4K image. As I scroll in, nothing's becoming pixelated. Everything is absolutely still looking good. So that just gives the client more freedom to be able to do what they want with the final image, whether they just want to print it up to view or whatever they want to do. It's a high-res image, so it has more, people can do more with it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and save this. So I'll click on image and I'll click as save as, and I've already created a new file now here, my Blender file for this, and I've called it still renders. So I'll click on this one and save image as, so I'll call it kitchen. Maybe I'll call it kitchen 1, and I'll go ahead and save image as. There we go. So now what I can do is actually drag over my files here, and I could go find that still renders and kitchen 1, and there we go. So there's our image as well, ready to go. Alright, so I actually just close that and push this back over again, and I can close this now because we've saved the image, and I could go ahead now and compose another scene. So I'll just move the camera around now, and I think what I'll do next is I'll do a full sort of nice side image of the house. Do I want to, let's have a look at focal length, maybe 35mm, and we just need to take a minute to compose this as we want. So I want some of the swimming pool, and I'd like the kitchen, and I'd like some of this balcony in the scene. I'd like some of these trees, and of course I'd like some of this table in the foreground. So I think I'm pleased with that. Maybe just pull it over a little bit more until I can just see the corner of the house like that. But then I don't really want this wall here in the foreground. I don't think that's going to make a lot of sense. So I'll pull it up a little bit, maybe to about there. I think I'm happy with that. I think that should work just fine. So what I'll do is I'll do another test render on this. So the samples I'll bring back down now to maybe very low, maybe 100. And here in the output I will bring this back down again to a 1280 by 720. Click enter, and there we go. Now that we've done that, I'll go ahead and hit F12 and do another render. And I'll go ahead and pause again for a minute so we're not just watching this render together. Okay, I'm back again, and because I did such a low resolution, low sample image, it actually only took 48 seconds, and I can now decide if I'm happy with this, the way I've composed this picture, and I think I am. A little bit of the table and the swimming pool and the trees and the sky, and the kitchen's looking great. It's a real center point of the image, and we still have a little bit of detail upstairs and some texturing on this wall, which will only improve as we do a high-res version. So I think I'm happy with that. If I zoom in, you can see that it's getting really pixelated again, but that's because it's a low-res image. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close this, and I'll go ahead and change things around a bit now. So For a start, I'll make this, shall I do 4K or do 2K? I think I'll do 2K, so I'll do 2048 by 1080 and click enter on that. And I'll go back over to render settings and I'll go ahead and increase the samples now to the 500 mark. There we go, bring that down. And that's it. And so with everything shown like that, first thing I'll do is I'll do a save. So I'll press Control S. And now I'll go ahead and do a render on that. Again, that's probably going to take a few minutes. So with that done, I think I'll go ahead and say that's the end of this lecture. So between this lecture and the next lecture, I'll go ahead and do some more renders, just following the same process that we've done during this lecture. So take the time to have a look at your first render, see if there's anything in your scene that you'd like to change, do a test render, and then if you're happy with everything, then go ahead and do your finished render. And I'll see you in the next lecture when we've got a nice set of renders ready to go. Okay, thanks very much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now. Hello and welcome now to lecture 83, and in this lecture let's have a go at doing our animation renders. Let's start doing that. It is going to take a few lectures to do this, and this part of the course is completely optional. Rendering for animation is very time consuming and it is quite a burden on your PC. Your GPU is going to be working very hard for quite a while to do this. I would say if we can put together a 20-second animation, for the average PC, you're probably looking at around 10 hours of rendering. Your computer running, constantly rendering for about 10 hours. You don't have to sit there and watch it do it, but it will be running for about 10 hours to do this at a guesstimate on the average GPU. So yeah, it's up to you whether you follow the animation portion of this course or not. If not, then focus on your still renders and do the best you can and sort of knock out some really nice ones. But for those who want to do the animations, let's crack on. So I think the first thing I want to do, actually, before we do that, let's just share the stills. So I'll just double click on my stills file and I'm just going to open those up. So I did this as a still. So this is the master bedroom, and it'd be interesting to see what you guys have done too. And I like this one, even though it doesn't do much. I don't show much of the house. I think I sell the house because of this magnificent view. So this is a nice one to me. I think this is my favorite. I think this one pops. I love our polished concrete. And this bedroom looks really nice, so I'm pleased with this one, the way this one looks. And our HDRI looks good, and our trees just add to the realism. This one pops. This one, I think we did this together, and I did this one as well, just a front-on view of the house. And this is another nice one. I like this one. I like the angle that I have, showing the pool, showing the lounge, and then showing this perspective of the house. I like this. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close that. And yeah, let's start rendering. So the first thing I need to do, or the first thing I do out of habit, is I'll go ahead and delete my camera that I've used for my still renders. It's just a habit. I find it best practice because that means I can default my camera. So I'll actually I'll just click on this camera, then I'll right click and I'll go ahead and delete. And there we go, that camera's gone now. The next thing I'm going to do is I need to bring in what Blender calls the timeline. So to do that, I'm going to come to the bottom corner here until I see the plus sign. Once I get that, I'm going to left click and drag up like this. And what I've done is created another window in Blender. And I'll take it to about there like that. Then I'll click on this one here and I'll come on over to timeline and click on this. Now I've got Blender's timeline in my user interface. So this here, like I said, this is the timeline. I'm repeating myself now. So right now I have here 250 frames. So each frame represents an individual still render. So that means right now from 0 to 250 means I'm going to do 250 still renders that we'll convert into an animation. So let's do some tweaking on this. So I think the first thing we'll do is let's have a look at our samples. We're not going to produce the same quality of image that we did with our still animations. We're going to bring down the quality because we need to strike a balance between it looking good and taking forever to render. There's a limit to how long we can render. Otherwise there's going to be smoke coming out of our computers. So I'll go ahead and click on this and I'll turn this to 250 samples per single render. We'll come down here to performance and just make sure, this is really important, that final render has persistent data turned on. After we've done that, we'll go to output and let's go ahead and bring the resolution down. We're not running at 4K resolution, let's run at 2K resolution. So I'll delete this and I'll run this I'll type in 2048 and type enter, and I'll do the same here, and this one is 1080. Whoops, 1080 and enter. So there's our resolution. We're going to run 24 frames per second, which is pretty much the standard even within the film industry. Around 24 is the kind of default. If you drop this down much, your animations will start to look a little bit clicky. You will be jumping from image to image, and you don't want that. You don't want it looking a little bit jerky. You want it looking smooth. So keep it at around 24 frames per second. So at 24 frames per second and having 250 frames, I did the math on this, and that's around 10 seconds of animation. And now, assuming that that's going to take around 2 minutes to do each rendering, that's 500 minutes it's going to take to do that. So I can't live with 500 minutes. It's too long. So I'm going to half this. I'm going to make this 120, which is about 5 seconds of animation. And that's not the total. That's going to be the first clip within around 3 that we'll edit together with some music to look good. So we've got 120 frames. And we have the resolution that we want. So now we need to tell Blender where to save this file. So I'm going to go ahead and compress this a little bit so that I can actually move this around, because I need to bring in another folder. So I'll bring in another screen. Normally I would work 2 screens, but obviously we have the restrictions of recording, so I'll just put this like this. And then I'll go ahead and bring my file in here like this. And just compress this a bit more. There we go, maybe compress this a bit, and hopefully we can make this all work. There we go. So I'll just click back on this, and this is my project file for this project. So I've got quite a lot of the same files that you have. I've got a few more as well because I'm recording a video, so I've got a few more, but we both have textures, we both have the asset pack. You probably have a Blender file, and you also have your still renders, and your assets pack. Am I repeating myself? A little bit. Sorry. Okay, so the next thing to do is actually create a new file. So I'll click on New and Folder, and I'll name this. What should we name this? I'll call this Pre. So I'll call this Pre-Anime, and there we go. That's good. Pre-animation. I'll click on this now, and this of course is now we can create another subfolder. So I'll click on this folder, and I'll just simply call this 1, I think. 1 and enter, and there we go. Actually I could do the same again. I'll click New again, folder, and I'll call this 2, enter, and I'll do the same again, and I'll call this 3. I may do more, I'll just see how it goes, and I'll just see how it goes. Maybe I'll do 4 or 5, but we'll just see how this goes. It's up to you as well, how many of these sets of renders you do. Remember, each one of these files is going to represent 120 renders. So there's going to be 120 renders in each of these files. So there's a lot of time here. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead over back into Blender. And in Output here, click on the file. And let's go back now and find it. So I'll click on the storage where I've got this. And click on this one. Whoops, no, this one here. And this is the same folder. So I'm now looking for my pre-anime, so I'll click on this, and I'll click on 1 and accept. And I think I'll just call this 1 and accept that as well. There we go. So I'll click on 1 here now, and of course it's empty for a minute because there's nothing actually done yet. And the next thing I need to do is actually start positioning my camera. So I'm going to bring the timeline back to 0 here like this, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in a camera now. So I'll press Shift A and I'll click on camera, and we'll bring a camera into the scene. I'll go ahead and lift this camera up a little bit like this, and I'll bring this camera now, maybe actually I'll click on local and go back to global, and I'll bring this camera back in the y-axis. Whoops. If I can find my gizmo, there it is. And I'll take this back like this. Get the camera out in the open, there we go. I'll press 7 so I get the orthographic view from the top. And I need to position my camera, so I'll just bring it forward a bit now. And maybe bring it over like this. Okay, I'm going to press 0 so I see through my camera, and I'm actually going to go over to my camera settings now, and the focal length for some reason is just crazy, so I'm going to go ahead and type in there 45 and click enter, and there we go, that's better. Okay, so the next thing we do is make sure that within the view that these two are locked, and then I'm going to go ahead and set my first frame, and I'm thinking I'm going to take a minute to do this. I'll just slide this out the way a little bit, compress this, and where shall the first frame be? Maybe I'll bring my camera focal length down to maybe 40 and bring this in again now. Maybe I'm happy with that. Once I'm happy with the camera position and the timeline is set on 0, I'm going to press I, and that will set a series of key stops on the 0 frame. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and move my timeline over to my 120th frame. There we go. Now that I've done that, I'll press 7 so I can see this from above, and I'll grab my camera and I'll bring this over like this to, I'm going to say around there, but I'm also going to bring it forward as well to about there, and I'll rotate it a little bit to around there. Now that I've done that, I'll press 0 to see through my camera again, and I think I'm happy with that, so I'm going to go ahead and press I to install another set of keyframes. Now that I've done that, I'll hit this little icon here to bring it back to the start, and I'll just press spacebar to play, and I'll see what that looks like. So as you can see now, Blender has actually configured a nice little animation for us. It's showing us how that camera is going to move during that 5 seconds. Am I happy with that? Is it running too fast? I don't think it is. I think I am happy with that. I think though I prefer the camera to just stay over the swimming pool a little bit. It sort of loses. Am I happy with that? I just don't see enough of the swimming pool. I'm not happy about that. No, I'm just going to hit the spacebar again to stop. And I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and grab these keyframes here, and I'll press delete, and there we go. So I'll go ahead and move the timeline again over to 120. And I'll press 7 to see this from above again, and I'll grab the camera again, and I'll just bring this over a little bit like this, and maybe in a little bit. And maybe down a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Over a little bit more. And I'll press 0 to see through the camera. And that's not bad, actually. I think I quite like that. So what I'm going to do now is, with that done, I'm going to press I and install another set of keyframes. I'll hit the replay button, and I'll go ahead and hit the spacebar to play this. And I'm still not seeing enough swimming pool. I just love the idea of having a swimming pool, and I'm not seeing it. So I think I want to do something with that. So I'll hit the pause button again by hitting the spacebar, and I'll grab these key stops, and I'll go ahead and press delete again, and I'll get this right in a minute. Okay, I'll grab the timeline, bring this back over to 120. And remember, this is going to run a long time, so get it right. Take that extra couple of minutes to set it up exactly as you want it. I'll press 7 again, and I'll bring this camera over like this, and I'll just bring it over the water a little bit like this, and I'll bring this camera down just so we see some more of the water, I think. And I will rotate that on the Z, so I'll press R and Z, just bring that camera over a little bit like this. And with that done, I'll press I to install my key stops. I'll go back to the beginning on this. I'll press 0 so I can see through the camera, and I'll press spacebar and we'll play. And now I can see the water. Just a little bit, admittedly, but I can see it. And I'm happy with the rate that that's going. Is it going a little far? Does it go too far around the other side of the house? No, I don't think so. I think I'm happy with that. It shows the boundaries of the house quite nicely. I think I'm liking that. Okay, so that's done, so I'll hit the spacebar, and I'll take that back to the start. And I'm just going to check everything over before I go ahead and play this, before I commence the render. So we have the reference image off, so that's good. Make sure it's not seen in the renders. And this is the camera setting. Let's look at output. We're running 2K, as we know. We're running 120 frames, so that's all good. We are putting it where we want that, and we'll just check that we're running cycles in the render engine. We're using our GPU to compute, and we're running 250 samples, and that the persistent data is turned on. Okay, so we're all good. So to render this now, and animate render, I'm going to go ahead and press Control F12. And there we go, it's off. It's running. So we can see at the bottom here, the progress bar, to show how far it's going, how fast it's going. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pause the video for a moment until it's nearly finished rendering, and then I'll bring you back in. So I'll see you in just a sec. Okay, so I'm back, and we've done our first render, and it took 2 minutes and 33 seconds, and it's just showing here. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just maybe expand this a little bit, and I'll click on view, and I'll go for large icon. So there's our first render, and it's appeared, and it was done in 2 minutes and 33 seconds, and I think this one will be done a lot less. So it's showing that it's going to be done in around, what, 1 minute 33 seconds? So the second render is running about around 40 or 50 seconds less. So it's already trimmed 40 or 50 seconds off the second render. So I think I'm happy with that now. I'm going to go ahead and let these run, and I'll do after this 2 or 3 more other animations from different points in the house. And after I've done that, I'll see you in the next lecture. Okay, thanks very much. Bye bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 84. And yeah, in this lecture, let's start putting together our animations. And I really like this because this is a really fun part of the project, because it feels like a culmination of all our efforts come together right now. So there's sort of the wow factor of the video. So I really love this moment. It's good fun. So let's do this together. So since our last lecture, I've put together a set of renders, a set of animations, and I said I'd do between 3 and 5, and I've got a bit carried away, and I've done 7. And what I'll do is I'll drag in my files here. So this is my file group here, my pre-animes, or call it what you will. I don't know if pre-animes is the right term for it, but that's what I've called it. And I've renamed them. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I've got them sort of slightly descriptive, so I have a slight idea of what's on each of them. So we did the sweep bedroom, no, we did the sweep across front exterior. And let me see if I can make this a bit bigger. And let's have a look at view and go to large, extra large. And so we have like this one here, and which goes across to the end one here, and this is what we look like. So that sort of sweeps across. Can my computer handle that? It's asking a bit much, but yeah, it sort of sweeps across the front of the property, and that's a really nice view. I like that one. So we've got that, and you've got your own versions, of course, so it'll be interesting to see what you've got. But I've got a bathroom one similar, and I've got pan bedroom 2, and I've got sweep around sofa bedroom 1. So I have, this is my bedroom 1 first image, and that goes right the way across. This is quite a large file, this one, and this goes across to this one. So it goes from the side of the bed to the outside view. So that's a really nice set of renders as well. Okay, so that's kind of what I've got. I could show you the rest, but I'm sure we'll find them as we go. So I'll go ahead and pull this out the way again now. We don't need that for a moment. So the next thing we need to do is actually start editing the sequence of renders. So what we need to do for that is to go into Blender's video editor software. So we don't have it up here preset. So if we hit the little plus sign and we go to video editing, and we go down here to video editing again and click on that. And now render's sort of set up for video editing. I'll just pull this down slightly to give us slightly more space here. Maybe just bring this one over. And there we go, that's cool. So what we have here is our timeline, and this is currently in seconds, and I personally rather see this in frames. So I'll click on view here, and I'll click on this one, use time code, and now we're going to see it in frames rather than seconds, because it's frames that we've sort of set our renders out in. So we'll continue with that. So at the moment it's set on 120 frames, which just, it's not enough, not nearly enough. So I'll come up here now into output, and here on the frame end, I'll go ahead and take that over, and I'll whack that up to maybe even 700 or 800 or 900 for now. It doesn't really matter, we can adjust that when we've got all our editing in place, all our animations set out. So I'll scroll the mouse wheel to compress this a little bit and bring this over so I can see this. Maybe that was too much. I'll put that something like that, I think. Once we've done that, I'll bring the timeline back to 0. And the next thing we're going to do is press Shift A, add image sequence, and let's go ahead and find our pre-anime file, or whatever you called it. Let's click on it. And let's bring in the first one. So I'll start with the sweep across front exterior. So I'll make sure that it's in channel 1 here, which will bring this video set in here on channel 1. So I'll click sweep across front exterior, add image, and I'll press A to select all of them and add image strip. And there we go, it's brought it in for us. Let's have a look. And it's actually brought it in reverse. But there's an easy trick to sort that out. Make sure that it's actually selected. Come over here to compositing, click on video, and click on reverse frames. Now that we've done that, we can actually see that. And we can take that back to 0. And we can go ahead and hit the spacebar and play and get an idea of what that's going to look like. And that's going to look good. That's going to look good. I'm liking that. So I'll bring the timeline back to the end there, to what looks like 117. And now I'll bring it back 10 more frames to 107. Or thereabouts. That looks good to me. Once I've done that, I'll press Shift A, add image sequence. We'll go back 1, and we've got sweep across front exterior. So I think I will go with pan across kitchen. So I'll select this, I'll double click on it. I'll press A to select all. I'll make sure now that I'm in channel 2, and I'll add image strip. And that's it. Blend has brought that in exactly where I want it, overlapping the first one by about 10 frames, which is about half a second. So that's looking good, but again, it's running in the wrong way around. So with that one selected, I'll go ahead and click on reverse frames. I'll go back to the start maybe, and I'll hit the spacebar and see how this is looking. And you can see in the top corner here it's running red, which is mean my computer can't really run fast enough to give us a full speed version of our video. But that's okay, it doesn't really matter. It's looking good. I'm liking what we're getting. Okay, so let's bring in the next one. So I'll bring the timeline over again to the end, which is 226. So I'll take it to 216. There we go. And I'll press Shift A, image sequence. We'll put this time in channel 1, which it's done for us. We'll click back, and this time sweep around sofa, press A for all, and add image strip. It's probably in reverse. It is, so I'll hit reverse frames, making sure this is selected. And there we go. And let's see what that looks like. And it's looking good. I like the reflection on that table. That's looking really nice. And I like this little bit of artwork on the wall just makes it pop. And I like the rug on the floor too. After all, the purpose of this whole project is to make something that makes you want to live there, that you wish you lived there. And I think it's doing it. And I really hope you're pleased with the results that you're getting, that you're learning from this, and you're proud of the results that you're getting. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing. I'm digressing from the course. All right, so we're on 335. Let's take that back to 325. There we go. Well, 326 is close enough. And we'll press Shift A, add image sequence. And we'll go pan to stairs this time. And we'll press A to select all and add image strip. Of course it's in reverse, so we'll hit reverse frame. And there we go. So that's got that one in now as well. So we go from sofa to just starting to lead up the stairs to give the suggestion now that we're going up to the first floor. So I'll go again and now put that on the end, 365, and I'll take that back to 357, something like that, because that's quite a small sequence. So I'll reduce our overlap a little bit. Now that I've got it set where I want it, the timeline, I'll press Shift A, add image sequence, make sure we're in channel 1, and we'll go pan bedroom 2. I'll go ahead and select that. I'll press A to select all of them and add image strip. And this was quite a big one, and it's running in reverse, so we'll hit reverse frame. And I think I'll take it back to the beginning now and see how we're looking. And I really like the kitchen. I like the sort of just the stuff back here, just making it feel like a real home. A few little quirks. And yeah, I like this one. Leading up the stairs is good, just telling the story. And now we have the bedroom as well. And that's looking nice. I may actually, this one, I may turn off the reverse on this one and maybe run this from the hot tub to the bedroom. Maybe that's nicer. Yes, I think I'll do that with that one. That makes more sense to me. Okay, so again, that's running at last frame is 508, so I'll run that to 498, and with the timeline in the right position, I'll press Shift A, I'll add image strip, and this time I want sweep bedroom 1 to outside, so I'll double click on this and I'll press A to select all. Make sure we're in channel 2, which we are, and add image strip, and there we go. So for this one, I do want to make sure that I'm reverse frame for this one. And let's have a look at this now. That's looking good. It's a nice light room, feels big, and we lead to our beautiful vista outside. That's looking great. So let's actually just bring this over a little bit. And let's bring the timeline to the back here like this now. So 649 appears to be our last, so 639. There we go. And I'll press Shift A, add image sequence, and this time it's bathroom, so I'll double click on this, and I'll press A, and I'll add image strip. And there we go. Let's have a look at our bathroom. And I mean, I don't mind with this really. That looks quite nice going that way, but I think I prefer to reverse the frames on that one as well. And let's see what this looks like. And that's looking good. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and try slowing down our frame rate. So I said in the last lecture 24 frames per second is the ideal rate, and it is, but I think I'll just try customizing it. So I'll go ahead and click on customize, and then I'll bring the 24 down to maybe 20. I'll take this back to the beginning and see how this looks. Hopefully it's slowed down our running speed a little bit, which I think it has, but I don't want it to appear looking jerky or jumpy. Everything still needs to look quite fluid. And I think I can get away with 20 frames per second. I don't see that that's looking particularly jerky. Okay, so I think I'm pleased with that, and in the next lecture what we'll do is we'll refine this a little bit more. What we're going to do is add some fade ins and fade outs at the end of our video, and we're going to actually add some merges to these so that they blend into each other, so that we don't get the snaps between video clips, but we actually get a nice merger. After we've done that, we'll add a little soundtrack to this, and at that stage, that's the end of our project complete. Alright, so thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 85. And yeah, I mean, this is the penultimate video, the penultimate lecture. And in this lecture, let's finish off our video editing, and then let's render out our final video. Super exciting. And then in the next lecture, let's see what's happened. Let's see what it looks like. So yeah, let's finish this off. We're nearly done. There's not that much left to do, so this should be quite an easy and quite a short lecture. But it starts with a confession. What I actually do is I forgot to leave channel 1 clear, and I'll show you in a while why we needed to do that. So we need to sort of move all of these up one. So what I'll do is I'll just maybe select maybe just 2 of them, and I'll just push them up. So I'll hold a left mouse button and just bring those up like this, and I'll do the same with this one. I'll just bring this one up as well, and just bring this one up. Try not to move them sideways. There we go. And if you do, it's alright, just sort of reposition them again. And bring this one over and just center it again. And do the same here. And do the same here. Whoops. And just reposition that again. And there we go. Okay, so where do we go next? Let's have a quick look at our video sequence. And I was looking at this between lectures. I'm happy with this, and I'm happy with this, but I think I want to bring this one as the final clip, because to me, leading towards that view and then holding that view is cool. I like that as the final kind of clip. So what I think I'm going to do is just grab this one and just bring it over. Grab the bathroom and go ahead and take that up onto channel 3, and then kind of reposition that again. Bring this one down onto channel 2 and then reposition that one again. And that's kind of what I want now. So I'll finish off with this one. And then looking at the bathroom, I don't think I want this bit leading in here, because also I just clipped that wall, which is nice, and it doesn't seem like it's needed anyway. So I'll bring my timeline to about there. You probably don't have to do this, because at this stage you've very much got your own videos. So this is just me showing you my kind of approach. So now I've got my timeline where I want my bathroom to start. I'll grab this side here and I'll go ahead and pull that over to about there, like that. So I have shortened my bathroom sequence, but that's okay. And I'll go ahead and bring this, and I'll just pull it over, and just kind of at this stage kind of guess the overlap, and then bring this one over as well. Now the last thing I want to do is I want this to dwell at this point for a while when we fade the video clip out. So I'll just come to the end of here and hover over the end, left click, and just go ahead and extend this like this. And I'll just bring that for maybe around 15-20 stops, 15-20 frames, there we go. And now at the end now, it will hold just there, looking at the view. There we go. So with that, I'm kind of happy now, I think, with my video clips and the way they're formatted and the way they look. So we can see here now where we can kind of call the last frame, and it's around the 770 mark. So I'll come up here to frame range, and I'll go ahead and bring this down now to, what are we looking at? About 780 by the look of it. I'll leave it there. At about 780 is now the last frame. So the next thing we need to do is kind of, I mean, it's all there and it's how I want it to be, but we need to polish this diamond a bit. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and select this first one here, and I'll right click and I'll add a fade, and I'll add a fade in. And now we've got a progressive fade in on this first little video. So we can click this little drop down box like this, and we can increase or decrease the amount of time. And in this case, I think I'll leave that at about the second. I think I'm happy with that at the second. So if we bring the timeline over now, we can have a look at that fade in. And that's looking good. But there's a problem. Because at the start of the fade in, we're getting this checkered screen. So that's not really ideal. So we need to bring in a base color so that when it does its fade in, we have a base color to start with. So we can do that. So if I go ahead and press Shift A and click on color, and we're going to bring this in on channel 1, which Blender's done for us, and we want this to end, well, where should we just bring this over like this maybe? And I'll just bring the timeline out of the way, and I'll just drag this over like this. And now we can have a look and see what that looks like. So we start off with a black screen, and now we go ahead and fade in, and that's kind of what I want. Okay, so now we've done that, let's do the same now at the opposite end. Let's do a fade out. So I can select this one here like this, and I can right click and I'll go to fade and I'll click fade out. Now with a fade out, I'll just hit the drop down again, and I'm going to increase my fade out to, I think, around 2.5 to 3 seconds, and we can see that there now, and I'm happy with that. So I'll bring this to the end like this and have a look at this fade out and just see what that looks like. So we've gone to a still image at this stage, and then we fade out, and that's really nice. Let's grab the color and let's press Shift D and bring a spare of that color over now to this opposite side like this, and then just drop that there like that, and then go ahead and expand this color so that it covers that fade out, and then let's have a look at that. And there we go, that fades out nicely, quite moody. I like that, I'm happy with that. So the next thing we need to do is add a transition between these to stop the sort of the snap change in the images. I mean, come on, that's quite snappy. So we can do something with that. So if I select the first image, or the first video clip, the kind of lead-in video clip, if I select that first and now hold Shift and select this one like this, with the two selected, I can right click and I can add transition, and I'll add a cross transition. And with that done now, I can go ahead and hit play again, and we can see that that's softened the transition between the two video clips, and that looks much better. So let's go ahead and do that with the rest now. So I'll select this one, hold Shift and select this one, right click, add transition and a cross transition. This one now, hold Shift, and this one, right click, add transition and cross. This one to this one, and now this one to this one, and then the last one, this one to this one, right click, add transition and cross, and there we go. So now we have transitions in place between all our videos. Let's have a quick look at that, see how that looks, and that's much more refined now. That's looking a lot nicer. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so let's hit the pause button again. And the next thing I want to do is actually bring in an audio strip for this, some music. And I'm going to use the music that I've used for the intro for absolutely every lecture. So you're more than familiar with it. But I can't provide a soundtrack for you. I can't legally provide you with music. It's copyright laws would just prevent that, and I wouldn't want to anyway, because quite frankly, music is a deeply personal thing, isn't it? You know, it's very subjective to what you like. So I will leave that completely up to you to choose a music that you like, and there's lots of different music out there on the web you can choose, and I'll just show you a site that I prefer, that I use quite a lot, and it's this one. It's Freesound, and on Freesound there's just thousands and thousands of different sounds, music strips that you can choose maybe and then download and then apply to your video. Okay, so I'm going to bring in a music now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to go for sound, and I'm going to find my music vid, which I've got just here, and it's this one here, and I'll add sound strip, and there we go. I'll bring that over and start that right there. And my music is a lot bigger than my video clip, so I'll just zoom out a little bit and then grab the end and pull that in like this, and then I'll scroll the mouse wheel again just to expand on this. So again, I could do with a fade on this, so I'll right click and I'll add fade, and I'll fade out on this, and there we go. And again, the fade is about 2.9 seconds, maybe even I'll bring that a bit longer again to maybe 3, maybe 4 seconds for the fade out on the music. And I'll also add a fade in on the music. So I'll right click again, fade and fade in, and I'll reduce this. I don't want this much. I just want maybe a second on the start, just to sort of soften the intro on the music. And there we go. So let's have a look at this now. And there we go, it's looking good. So I'll just bring the music to the end and just listen to the fade out, make sure that's good. And yeah, that's absolutely perfect. That's just what I want. So with that done, that's our video editing all finished. So I think the only thing I want to do now is go ahead and lock these in case I accidentally move anything. So those are all locked now, so we can't actually touch those. So the next thing to do is actually format how we actually save this. So the first thing we need to do is choose a file. So I'll hit the little file here in output. I've created this vids file for this, so I'll select this, accept, and I think I'm just going to call this vid1 and go ahead and accept. And there we go. So now we have that. We have a place saved. The next thing I need to do is look at what format I'm going to save this in. So I'll hit this little drop down here and I'll save this as an FFmpeg. There we go. The next thing I need to do is look at encoding. So I'll click just here as well. And where it says Matroska, I'll hit the drop down on that and I'll save as an MPEG-4. So I'll click on that like that. If you've added music or any sound to your video, come down here to audio, and where it currently says no audio, again, if you've not added any audio, then you can leave it with no audio, but I have, so I'll click on AAC, and there we go. So with that done now, that's everything formatted and ready to go, so we can go ahead and render out this video. So to do that, I'll hold down Control and I'll press F12. And there we go. So it's rendering and it does appear quite jerky, but don't panic. That's just your computer just formatting this video. It's not running at the correct speed that you'll be doing it at. So I'll just let this run, and since this is the last one, I won't pause, I'll just let it go. And it's looking good. I'm really pleased with this. This is a place that I look at and I would like to live. Definitely, I would like to live here. So if I want to live there, then as a video, it's definitely done its job. Alright, so this is the last one, just panning around to this beautiful view. And there we go. That's it. Okay, so that's the video finished. In the next lecture, let's check that out. Let's see what our final video looks like. Alright, thanks very much. And I'll see you in the final lecture. Bye bye for now. Well, we made it. That's it. That's the end of the course. And I just want to say a huge well done to absolutely everybody for following along. And hopefully you've developed some new skills and you've taken a lot from this course. And I cannot wait to see what you've done with your versions of this house. And please do share that. I love to see what people do with this course. And then hopefully you've developed some whole set of skills that you can now take forward and apply to your own projects. And hopefully I've introduced you to Blender. It's a really amazing piece of software, and it's got infinite possibilities of what you can do with it. It's so powerful. And there's an amazing group of people out there that's just creating fantastic things with Blender, and hopefully you'll be one of them. So I'm really, really proud of you. So please, if you've enjoyed the course, please leave a review, and please check out some of my other videos if you want to. Some of my other courses, they're out there on Udemy, and I'll be adding more courses in the future. But this isn't really about me, this is about you. So I just want to say that I'm immensely proud of you all for doing this. And I just want to thank you for following along. So I think I'll end this course by showing you my finished video. And who knows, maybe I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Thanks for following along. And hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye-bye now. Hello, and welcome to this extra little lecture, all to do with the common problems that you might find whilst you're building this project. Common issues that you might find in Blender, but these are the most common problems that I find whilst using Blender, so maybe I can just sort of head you off at the pass on these and just help you along with them. So one of the things that I find with Blender is as you start panning around, particularly in full rendered mode, but also in modeling mode, sometimes you find that as you zoom in an object, it gets slower and slower and harder to zoom in, particularly in rendered mode. So the two things that you can do to solve this is you can press Shift B. That will get you this little crosshair up, and you can just draw a rectangle around the area that you want to zoom in on. Blender will refocus to that object, and it will just become easier to move around it. The other thing that you can use for the same reason is the decimal point on the numpad. So select an object and just hit the decimal point with the numpad, and Blender will zoom in automatically to that object. That's a really quick way of sort of recentering on different objects in Blender. Okay, so that's sort of zooming in. That's covered that. One of the easier things we're going to look at. The next problem you might find is Blender crashing. In fact, it's more than likely. At some stage during the process of building this project, Blender will crash on you at least once. And if you don't, you're extremely lucky, particularly as the project gets more and more complex and you're starting to do work a lot more in rendered mode or rendering as well. Then there's times when Blender does crash. So you can recover that file. So reopen Blender, of course, in the same project. Come up here to File, click on this, and click on Recover, and you can go ahead and recover last session. That should open up Blender at the last save within that project, within the last auto save in that project. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about is keeping file sizes as small as possible. So what you can do, again, do this quite frequently, is come up to File and come down to Cleanup and Purge Unused Data. Click on this, and I don't have much. I have 2 local data blocks and nothing else really, but I'll go ahead and delete unused data, and that will keep my file sizes as low as possible. The other thing to do is to compress our saves. So if I go ahead and go to File now, and I'll go to Save As to create a new save, and I'll call this 6, so I'll hit the plus sign, come up here to Settings, and make sure that Compress is highlighted, and that will reduce your file size significantly, and go ahead and Save As. I won't do it, I don't need to save, to be honest, but that's the way to compress the file, to reduce the file size for Blender. Okay, so what else do we need to cover? I think the other thing I want to cover is beveling. So what I'm going to do is just compress this scene for a moment and go ahead and open up a kind of standard Blender scene. So brand new, not been used, empty screen, just got the camera and the light, and I'll bring in a cube and I'll mess this cube around. So I'll scale it in the X, and I'll scale it in the Z, and I'll scale it in the Y, and there we go. So I've done some scaling on this, and now I want to bevel it, so I'll go ahead and tap into edit mode, and I'll press A, and I'll press Shift B, and I'll go ahead and scale this object. Now I was hoping for a nice bevel, a nice equal bevel, and it's not done it at all. I've just got some weird beveling going on, which is not at all what I wanted. So I'll press Ctrl Z and undo that bevel. So why isn't the bevel working? Why am I not getting equal bevels on all faces? It's because I forgot to rescale the object. So if I tap out of edit mode, look at the scale, and the scale's all out. So I'll press Ctrl A and I'll apply rotation and scale. Now if I tap back into edit mode, I press A, I'll press Ctrl B, and I can go ahead and bevel now, and it bevels equally. There we go. That's the common problem that I get asked about beveling in Blender. Okay, so there's one last thing that I'd like to cover, and that is VRAM. So I'll go ahead and close this. I don't want this now. And go back to our main project. And if we look here at the bottom, incidentally, if you don't have this stuff here on the bottom, this information about your scene, you can right click in the bottom here and you can turn on and turn off any of these statistics. The one I'm looking for here is VRAM, Video Random Access Memory. Now Blender will tell you how much you have, and it is all dependent on the specification of your GPU. So my GPU has 24 GB of VRAM, and this scene is currently running 18.9 GB of VRAM, which is quite a lot really. So what can I do to reduce the VRAM into my scene for the average GPU? But yes, so obviously different computers are going to have different VRAM. But if you turn that on within Blender at the bottom, you can find out how much VRAM you have available to you. The other thing to do is use your task manager and click onto performance on that, and that will show you how much VRAM and the specifications of your GPU. So how can we reduce the VRAM in the scene? Maybe that's just too much for your computer to handle. So how can we reduce that to make this scene obtainable to the average PC? Okay, so the simplest and quickest way to do this, or first of all to reduce it to a manageable level, is to reduce the texture quality inside the viewport. Not within the final render. This won't affect the quality of your final render, just within the viewport. So we can go over here to the render properties tab, come to here to simplify and click on this. This might take a second to format, and straight away by doing that we're actually brought this scene down to, actually it's not moved. It's not moved. Typical, absolutely typical. But if I click on the properties on this and I go to texture limits and I click on this, and I'm going to bring this down from no limits to 256. This is going to take a second or two to format now, because it's going to have to re-render the scene and reapply the textures at a simpler level. So just bear with my computer for a second. And there we go. We can visibly see, particularly on the wall here, that and the paving, that the texture quality has dropped, and our VRAM is now down to 15. So we reduced the VRAM by about 3 GB just by doing that. We could reduce the texture limits again, maybe to 128 if you want to reduce that even further. And by doing that now, we've reduced the VRAM down to 14.9. We could reduce the volume resolution. Maybe half that. And also the char particles, bring that down as well. And let's see what that's done for us. So now we're down to around about 13.5 GB of VRAM. Actually down to 10. So by doing that now, obviously this has reduced the quality within our viewport, but it won't have affected the quality of our final render. That'll be just the same. So what else can we do to reduce the VRAM in our scene? We could go back to shading for a moment, and we could go to click on this one where it says object, go back to world and have a look at our HDRI. So my HDRI currently is a 16K HDRI, which is a very big file. So I could go ahead and reduce that. So I've downloaded from Polyhaven. I've actually downloaded some, from HDRI Haven. I've downloaded some lower file sizes for our HDRIs. So this is the same HDRI, but I'll go from 16K down to 4K. I've even got a 1K here, but I'll go to 4K and go ahead and add that image instead of the 16K. So that's definitely going to help. So we'll go back to modeling again now. And by doing that now, by reducing our HDRI file size, we've brought the VRAM down to about 13.8. So we've done a lot of good things now to reduce our VRAM size. But there's more we can do if we want to. So what we could do is, for actually rendering out our scene, we don't necessarily need to see the furniture on the first floor. We could go ahead and hide that if we wanted to. So we could go back to shading for a moment actually. And we could go ahead to full rendered mode. And we'll go from world to object. And I'll go ahead and grab maybe the glass here. So I'll tap into edit mode and select the glass. And what I'm going to do is add some darkness to the glass to kind of tint the glass so it's harder to see the objects inside. So I'll just go ahead and drag this bar down into the darker colors like this. Maybe something like that. And yeah, that's actually done exactly what I want. So that's actually quite a nice feature in itself anyway. I'll tap out of edit mode with that, and you can see what that's done. So now it's kind of much harder to see the interior of the upstairs. So now that I've done that, what else can we do to reduce the VRAM? So what I could think about now is, if I'm rendering the ground floor scenes for videos, I need to see the kitchens and I need to see everything on the ground floor. But I don't need to see everything on the top floor. I don't need to see the beds or any of that stuff really. So what I could do is go ahead and hide the bedroom 1 furniture. And if I hit the little camera here, it'll hide it from the rendering as well. And by doing that now, we've reduced the VRAM to 12.9. So we could do the same as well with bedroom 2. We don't need to see that. So we've reduced the VRAM now to about 12, maybe less. And the bathroom, we can hide that too, which has brought the VRAM down to about 12 again. And we could actually look at doing some of the stuff on the veranda. So we could sort of open the veranda file up and we could hide the floors. And we could hide the table set. And we could hide the door. And there we go. So we've reduced the VRAM down now substantially from about 18 or 19 down to about 12.6. So there is other things we could do as well if we wanted to. We could maybe thin the trees out, reduce the amount of trees that we have in scene, because trees are holding a lot of information. So if I go to the outside file, open trees up, maybe I'll just hide the pine trees from the scene. And that's reduced the VRAM down to an even 12. And maybe I'll reduce or take these trees here out of the scene as well. And now we've reduced the VRAM down to 11. So there we go. So I've shown you how to control the VRAM in your scene to bring that down. I've shown you how to reduce your file sizes and how to recover a file if Blender crashes. We've shown you how to sort of zoom in on objects when Blender doesn't seem to want to, and shown you how to get over beveling problems when you're working in modeling mode. Okay, so I hope that all helps, and I think in the future I will expand on this. I think doing a sort of a troubleshooting lecture is quite a good thing. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.